So, before we get started, I'm a map guy. North is not written on this map, but as you're looking at it and reading it properly, that is north. And I'll get everybody oriented in a second. I apologize for not having to look on this. Again, like I said to some of the people, yeah, take one pass around. I got plenty of them. Like I said to people yesterday, my drill sergeant grandfather would be knocking me in the head right now for that.
Dang, I love maps.
Feel it right now. Everybody got a map? All right. Outstanding. So, my name is Timothy Arnold, and as I always jokingly say, I am a park ranger here, but if I had to steal this get up right here, just so I could stand out here and talk to you, I would do it. The real Timothy Arnold's tied up behind a tree somewhere over there. That'd be fun if that was true. But no, anyway, we are going to talk about Crittenden's division here, but before we get started, holes in the ground exist. We need to be wary of that. There's ant piles every once in a while, so if you see something looks like a little dirt hill, if you're not used to seeing that, that's fire ants. Don't step on that. They swarm you immediately. You don't want that. Snakes could be around maybe, I'm not sure. I don't feel cold. So they may not either. Ticks exist right now. I got one the other day. Oddly enough, right here on my forearm, which doesn't make sense to me, but I got one. So be careful about that. Check yourselves later. And as I always say, take care of the person next to you, just like the soldiers did back then. If you feel like you're going to pass out, let me know. If the person next to you tells you that they feel like they're about to pass out, let me know they said that. If I tell you I'm about to pass out, grab my radio to my backpack and just start talking to people. All right. Anyway, so welcome to, well, this is Cloud Field behind me right here. This is the United Daughters of the Confederacy Monument. And just to kind of say something cool about it is there just happens to be a lock of Johnston's hair in the cornerstone of that, just so you know, which I think is pretty cool. But I'm not here to talk about that monument. We're going to talk about the fighting that took place starting just a little bit further into the woods there and south all the way to the Hamburg-Purdy Road. So if you look at that map there, let me get us oriented to where we are. If you turn that direction, we're in this triangular area right here at the very top center of the page. You'll see Smith and Boyle, 8 a.m., right at the top center of the page there. You are oriented that direction. So the way we're going to be walking, we'll be looking at the map upside down. I could not change that for you, I apologize. But we'll be walking the direction, reading it upside down as we head that direction in a little bit. So we're going to be dealing with Crittenden's division, so anytime you see Boyle or Smith on there, which I believe that's the only time you see Smith and Boyle, those are the two brigades in Crittenden's division. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about those commanders, including Crittenden himself. One of his brigades only had 3 regiments. Normally it'd be about 4, but one only had 3, and they got help from another regiment that kind of hopped in that was technically a part of Grant's army. But we're dealing with Buell's army today, for the most part, except for this one unit, the 14th Wisconsin, one of the 3 Wisconsin regiments that fought here at the Battle of Shiloh. So without the 14th Wisconsin, Crittenden's division was 3,825 men. With the 730 men of the 14th Wisconsin, we've got 4,555 guys total. So that's what we're dealing with on as far as Crittenden's division goes here, or what is under his command, I should say properly. But the 14th Wisconsin definitely helped him out. That's a pretty decent sized regiment for attrition and such. Because normally if you're going by a book, you're looking at about 1,000 troops or so in a regiment. But by the book is not how things work, especially during the Civil War when it comes to things like that. So 730 is not really that bad. Actually, it's pretty decent. The military objective by the Confederates as they attacked in the morning of April 6th is to come in, put their right flank on the Tennessee River, and push the Union Army north of Pittsburgh Landing. So taking Pittsburgh Landing is their first military objective. Does anybody remember what that second one is?
Push them into some slough.
Yes, push them into something nasty. The Owl Creek and Snake Creek bottom. You got it. There. and give Grant no other option but to surrender, because if you look at a contour map of this battlefield, there are no contour lines the further north you go past Pittsburgh Landing. It's a nasty, swampy, marshy area. So that was the plan. But I'm going to tell you this, because, well, one of the reasons is because they're trying to prevent Buell from landing. Well, by midnight on the 6th, all the division of this particular division was on board steamers or waiting to get on them to head to Pittsburgh Landing, and all of them had arrived by 1 a.m. So Buell's forces are here. As a matter of fact, Buell's forces were landing before that final attack on April the 6th. By the amount of Confederates who were able to push over there across the other field, head down and up Dill Branch Ravine, Buell's guys are already showing up. Now, when Crittenden does show up, he's upset with Grant's forces because there's too many guys around the landing. They don't look ready for fighting, in his opinion. However, I would say that Crittenden's not very aware of what happened on April the 6th. To be super honest there, which, you know, makes sense because he wasn't here. But Buell will place Crittenden on Nelson's right. So Nelson's division is going to be the farmost eastern or left, if you will, of the attack on April the 7th, the morning of April 7th. So Nelson will be the one closest to the river, and then Crittenden is to his immediate right. There we go. All right, so all night long, we've just got rain, rain, rain. Those who were with me on the Hornet's Nest hike the other day, just right over there is where W.H.L. Wallace was hit, and he was left all night. And as Crittenden's men moved through here on the morning of the 7th, they will find W.H.L. Wallace still alive, shot through the head. Just to kind of give you a little connection from this end of it. Now, we're going to walk over here just so we can talk about the different, the two brigades here. So we'll take a short little walk. So to get oriented real quick, we're right in between the Smith and Boyle line there that says 8 a.m. at the top of your page. Boyle's brigade plaque is that yellow one right there. And Smith's brigade plaque is the one that's over here into the woods. And that's going to be the center of each of those brigades. Now the 14th Wisconsin will be, as you can see on the map here, you've got the 26th Kentucky, 13th Ohio, then the 14th Wisconsin, and the 11th Kentucky. I don't know if it was a trust issue or not as far as that goes, but they did stick those Army of the Tennessee guys in between a couple of their regiments. You'll see that in situations like on the Confederate side, when a lot of the men in the 52nd Tennessee took off. Those that were left were intermingled in between some of the other Confederate regiments that didn't take off when they were surprised. Now, let's get some background of these two brigades here. This first brigade, Smith's brigade, is technically 14th Brigade, but they've got the 11th Kentucky with Austrian rifles. That's a 54 caliber rifle. The 26th Kentucky has Enfields, a 58 caliber. The 13th Ohio has 69 caliber rifle muskets, 800 of them, and 190 Enfields. Ohio kept really good records, by the way. In the 14th Wisconsin has Belgian rifles. It's as far as I know, it's a rifled weapon, but it's a larger round. So we're looking at several different calibers and types. Well, at least not types, but either way, we're looking at different calibers of bullets here. And my phrase for this battle, if I had to sum it up in one thing, is ammunition resupply nightmare. Now, this other brigade, Boyle's brigade, which is technically 11th Brigade, they've got the 9th Kentucky, which has Austrian rifles at 54 caliber. They've got the 13th Kentucky with 1855 Springfields, which is a 5.77 round. 19th Ohio has 660 69 caliber rifle muskets and 200 Enfields. Good records. and all of the 59th Ohio has infield rifles. So again, the same problem. We've got all of these different calibers. So resupplying ammunition. If I was an ordnance sergeant, I'd do everything I could to get all the same weapons in the units that I'm in charge of. Now, they also have Bartlett's Battery G of the 1st Ohio Light Artillery. They've got 4 6-pound guns, which is the most common artillery piece at this battle, and 2 12-pound Weird rifles, and they do look weird, but it's W-I-A-R-D, just for spelling. And that unit actually has, Bartlett's battery, actually has a 14-year-old kid named David W. Camp, who even gets mentioned in the official records because his bravery. He's a number 5, which is the person that carries the rounds from the limber chest up to the artillery piece. It just keeps going and going and going, so he's back and forth. But he gets mentioned in the official records, which is kind of a big deal, especially being a private like that. Now, we talked about all night long, it's gonna rain. The thing is we've got to think about coming from Pittsburgh Landing. Now, Nelson's division, Nelson is the commander, so the guys on the far Union left of this counterattack, that is day 2, April 7th. Nelson's division is the division that he gets really antsy. He comes over from the Navy. He actually was one of those young people, young kids, if you will, that was brought up in naval service like that, or at least in that sea life kind of thing. So he's kind of been in that regiment of his whole life, of doing what he's told and doing the right thing and all sorts of stuff like that. So Nelson is antsy when he's sitting up in Savannah, Tennessee the day before. He's like, we gotta go. There's a battle going on. I've got to get my guys involved. So he's come over from the Navy and now he's an infantry commander. And he's so antsy and can't sit still that he finds a guide and marches his men on the other side of the Tennessee River and sits across from Pittsburgh Landing and waits for transport boats to take his men across. He is just that ready to go. So Nelson's our earliest guy on the battlefield as far as Buell's men go. He's also antsy in the morning. He takes off before sunlight, or the first sunlight, and he's heading this direction. He gets all the way to Wicker Field. So if you look at that map, and facing that direction upside down, if you look at that map on the it almost looks like straight down the center, but on the Hamburg-Savannah Road, you've got Wicker Field. He gets all the way to Wicker Field before there is any resistance by the Confederate Army. So the Confederates, who had actually been in this area and across through those woods, down and up Dill Branch Ravine, at the night of the 6th at 6:30, they retreat all the way back to the Hamburg-Purdy Road that you can see on the south side of the old cotton field right there at Sarah Bell's farm. They fell all the way back. So you see right there, 6 to 12 o'clock with Chalmers Brigade and Moore's Brigade, Smith's Brigade, and continuing on. That right there, that 6 to 10 o'clock is the line of the Confederates. That's where they fell back to on the night of April the 6th. So the morning of April the 7th, there they are. 6 o'clock a.m. They fire at Nelson because they can see him up the road there. And that's the very first firing, or the first shots that take place on the morning of April 7th. It's all the way past where we are right now in Pittsburgh Landings, way over there. So think about that as far as everything that takes place on the 7th. Now, just a little background on these 3 officers, because we've got Crittenden. If you're thinking Crittenden compromised, yes, that is the guy, because Senator John J. Crittenden is his father. His brother was a Confederate general, George B. Crittenden, but he got in trouble. He was an alcoholic, so that did not lead very well for him as a general. However, the troops that Crittenden will end up fighting against happen to have been under George B. Crittenden, his brother, on the Confederate side. This is one of those iconic brother against brother stories, and it definitely would have been here at Shiloh, with his brother being a Confederate general and him being a Union general. Their cousin is the Union General Thomas Turpin Crittenden. He was married to a woman named Catherine Todd, who oddly enough was the daughter of his father's second wife. Their son, John Jordan Crittenden III, served in the United States Army and died with Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer at the Battle of Little Bighorn in 1876. His body had been so mutilated that they identified him by his glass eye. Intense stuff. Now, back to Thomas Crittenden, Thomas Leonidas Crittenden. He had served in the United States Army during the Mexican War as a volunteer aide to Zachary Taylor and as a lieutenant colonel of the 3rd Kentucky Volunteer Infantry from 1847 to 48. He also served as a consul in Liverpool, England, before the war, but he had been a major general in Kentucky militia since 1860. So he's already had that rank when the war starts. Now, he had led a division. All right, this is just a brief stop so everybody can catch up. This next part will be kind of a slow walk because I want to kind of cover the far left of Crittenden's division. At this point, where we are right now, or actually as they're moving up in this direction, Boyle's brigade will be in the area we're in right now, and Smith's brigade, because they were one brigade behind the other. As they come up closer, that's when they're now going to be side by side. So on the rest of the map, you're just going to see Crittenden written down because now they're a whole division front as they move south from this location. So now they're a united front of a brigade with their 4,555 troops. Now, it is in this area where they start taking fire from the front, or at least this wing does. It's going to be just right through the woods over here. We've got the open Duncan Field you see on your map there. It better be. Yeah, it is. You see Joseph Duncan over here on your map. I've got mine upside down for you. It's going to be right here. On this end, you'll see Joseph Duncan written, Duncan Field right there. But we're at that 10 a.m. Crittenden little spot. You see the word Hornet's Nest written down. That's Hornet's Nest from the previous days fighting. They didn't know it was called that, but at this time, of course. But they're going to be taking fire from, you can see Breckenridge's guys right there, Martin's brigade and Statham's brigade. That's who's shooting in this direction. They're shooting really from just beyond. You see where the cars are there? If you just follow to the right in that direction, that's where they are. They're pretty close to right here. So they're going to start firing back at Crittenden's men, and that's when at Boyle's brigade here, and that's when Smith's is going to come up on the left. Smith's is going to anchor in we talked about Nelson's guys over there. He's going to anchor in with Hazen's brigade. So what we want to do now is we're going to walk the line to kind of get out there to that linking point between Hazen's brigade, which means, yeah.
On the map, like you're talking about Duncan, are all the dashed roads, are those just all like farm?
All the dash roads are old farm roads.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great question. You see the dash with the X's, those are the farm field fences that went around the farm field. So you can kind of see the outline of farm fields because that dash and X line.
Dash and X
Which would help
versus
if
just
we all
dashes,
had this
which are the
giant
field
map,
roads.
which I don't think they sell. So, all right, we're going to follow the path of Smith brigade. So that right there is the last regiment in Boyle's brigade, and now we pick up with Smith. All right, so we have actually not, we've moved down the line, not forward in the line, so we basically just walked all the way to the end of the line there where it says Crittenden. I don't want to critique the map maker on this one, but it would have looked like it's a little closer to Wickerfield, because Wickerfield's just right through, past that lighter colored leaves of tree down there. And these guys right here, the 13th Ohio, are going to extend out probably halfway between here and as far as we can see down the trail there, give or take. But this is the end of Crittenden's line where they hook in with Hazen's brigade, who's sticking out. Now, there's an artillery battery just a little further over there. You can see it on the map. Eventually, it'll be Mendenhall's battery, so it's just on the other side of Hazen's brigade there. You'll see Mendenhall's battery and Terrell's battery. Those batteries don't belong to Nelson's division. Nelson was so quick, if you will, getting here that he didn't have his artillery with him. So he had to borrow artillery. So that leaves Crittenden with just one artillery battery, that Bartlett's battery. We will go to their position in a second, or at least we'll walk past it as we're heading to our next stop. But let me kind of get us oriented. So we've got the 13th Ohio here. The 26th Kentucky will be next to them, and to their right will be the 14th Wisconsin, back the way that we came. In reserve is the 11th Kentucky, but they will move up online once that firing starts. Now, Frank J. Jones of the 13th Ohio, First Lieutenant, he's the acting assistant adjutant to General Smith, the brigade commander here. He said, at Buell's request, I went forward a short distance to ascertain what flag was then flying in our front left. I had gone but a short distance when I readily discovered the first rebel battle flag I had ever seen, and saw their line of skirmishers creeping slowly through the grass in an open field before us. So, from what it sounds like, from where Smith was, it almost sounds like he's going at least down the road, and he's going to see the Confederates approaching across the field to the south of us. He's going to start falling back real quickly to get back to the guys so he can get that message back, but he does get that message back, and then slowly this brigade's going to start moving forward. So we're gonna move forward. But what he's going to do when he does that, Smith's going to advance against the Confederate skirmishers through the dense thicket, and that's where we're heading to right now, so we can show where that is. But they get stopped because the Washington artillery, which on the map I believe it says Hodgson's battery, the Confederate artillery battery, they're going to shift over to right south of Davis Wheatfield, and they're going to be shooting in our direction here as Smith's brigade starts to proceed through the woods here. Now, a question about the woods, which is a great question. Somebody asked me that a while ago. Where we are right now, this particular part and most of the battlefield, it's an old growth forest. The trees were more spread out. The fences around those farm fields were to keep everyone's livestock out of everyone's crops. Therefore, they were free roaming and they kept things from growing in between those large trees. So we would actually be to see through this bit of trees right here all the way up to the sunken road where the dense thicket begins. And we're going to walk, not through there because I'm nice, we're going to walk back up that trail, and then we're going to walk around there and I'll show you where that is, and then we'll head south just like they did on the road there. The fighting that's going to take place, we talked about them entering the hornet's nest from the day before, the dense thicket. So all the woods behind us are more spread out, but everything here is very, very dense. One of the fellas, I don't know where I have this quote from, but it's in here somewhere, I promise. But he talked about only being able to see 10 feet. And this is a guy that was here on the second day of the fighting. And that same type of thing was said about the first day. And there was lots of artillery fire, musket fire, rifle fire going through here on the first day of the fight. And you would have thought you would have been able to see even further through here, but apparently vision did not progress or get any better. So as they push forward in this area, like I said, Frank Jones, that Lieutenant Jones, will push forward through here, and he finds out where they are, and he skedaddles back here a bit. Now Smith's brigade will start moving or advancing on those Confederates. Boyle's brigade does the same thing over in Duncan Field, or starts moving towards Duncan Field through there, pushing those Confederates back. And it's going to be the Washington artillery that I mentioned earlier, that Hodgson's battery. They're going to trade blows with Bartlett's battery. Bartlett's battery is the one we just passed right back here. So they're going to be trading blows with the Confederate battery that's going to be south of here. On your map, it's going to be there on the Hamburg-Purdy Road. Right there at Davis-Wheatfield, just south of Davis-Wheatfield, Hodgson Battery. So they're going to be trading blows with them. And with this lack of artillery that we talked about, because they had to give some away to Nelson, all he has is this one battery, otherwise he'd have a lot more artillery. Now, some of that artillery will eventually come up and help, but that doesn't happen yet. So, Boyle's brigade is going to be halted on the eastern edge of Duncan Field by Confederates 300 yards to their front, which, just so you know, is the extent of Duncan Field there. But they'll be halted by Confederates. But so now we've got a stand, if you will. Smith's brigade is going to stand firm, supported by them. That's, like I said, is trading blows with that artillery battery. And Statham's brigade is ordered to fall back under Bartlett's fire. So you've got a situation where the artillery fire from Bartlett's battery is actually going to push that Confederate brigade back, which is exactly what they were trying to do. But Statham's going to charge again and create a new line. So we're going to head down south, down the Eastern Corinth Road, and advance just as they had advanced down there. So let's take another trip.
Bless you. Of a stump.
All right, so I get questions about this tree stump a lot. It's kind of, I would say, famous. It's called Putnam Stump after Private J.D. Putnam. He's one of the guys that had died during this fighting that we've been talking about as Smith's brigade pushes south through this area. The 14th Wisconsin actually is in, I guess you could say, this corridor that the road is, and he is killed here. J.D. Putnam is. He was with Company F, and that's not West Virginia. That's Wisconsin Volunteers. The WV there on that. Is there any question too if I don't answer it? But J.D. Putnam, he was killed here. He was buried here, and they carved this on this tree stump that was here. And when the 14th Wisconsin decided to do a monument, the survivors, if you will, of the war decided to do a monument. This is what they decided to make as their monument. So I know several guys from Wisconsin, and they just absolutely love this stump. But that's what this is. So I answered that question. So we're going to head down to the next field down there, close to the intersection. Y'all feel free to take pictures as you go by. His body was removed to the National. We're now at the intersection of the Eastern Corinth Road and the Hamburg-Purdy Road. So this one running this direction east-west is the Hamburg-Purdy Road, meaning Purdy, Tennessee, and Hamburg, Tennessee. Hamburg is along the river. Purdy is past Adamsville, between Adamsville and Selmer. Now, the Eastern Corinth Road, is the one that we walked on right there, just to get us kind of oriented. So I need to back up in the story a little bit. But so we talked about Statham's brigade falling back and then pushing back forward again, or falling back to create a new line. So there's basically, we've got a counterattack with Statham's brigade at this point. Now this account by Edgar Houghton of the 14th Wisconsin. He said, then for the first time we heard the rebel yell. At first we heard it faintly away, off on our right. It becomes louder as it is taken up by the Rebs along the line, until it becomes a pandemonium in our front and echoes away to the left. On they come. You gotta imagine there's a number of Confederates doing this all along the line. And one guy does it, another guy does it. It's a huge amount of guys. And his description is it becomes a pandemonium. And they're sitting there trying to talk to each other. So we're talking about the rifle fire and the cannon fire, but then you've got these Confederates screaming and yelling at the top of their lungs. Pandemonium is his description, and that's the guy from the 14th Wisconsin. So someone coming down the area we did, so he said he heard it all faintly to the right, so in that direction. As we were coming through there, it would have been to our right front. Now, Smith's brigade will start moving forward, as we said, start moving slowly forward through there earlier. Washington artillery. This is something that's going to happen. The Washington artillery, which is right over here, we talked about them being south of Davis Wheatfield. That is Davis Wheatfield right there. Washington artillery has been trading blows with Bartlett's battery, but it's going to be when Smith's brigade comes out of that dense thicket, which stops right here, but they're going to be at the head, at the northern end of Davis Wheatfield, and when they come out of the wheat field, you've got a situation where they will charge this artillery. Now, everyone takes credit for this. The 14th Wisconsin takes credit for it. Everyone else and their mother seems to take credit for taking this Washington artillery unit, led by Hodgson, as we said. But it's going to be Colonel Marshall J. Smith of the Louisiana Crescent Regiment. Hodgson stated that they gallantly came to our rescue, charging the enemy at the point of the bayonet. Now, it was the 1st Missouri, the Louisiana Crescent Regiment, and the 19th Alabama in that order. So the 1st Missouri being closest to us, and then the Louisiana Crescent Regiment, who all three of those are the one who got it back, but they all charged forward and were able, in a hand-to-hand combat situation, save the Washington artillery. Now, as Breckinridge Corps starts coming around, as Breckinridge Corps, who's to the right, we've got a crossfire situation between Breckinridge and Hardee's Corps. Yeah. So Hardee is going to be, you see with Smith right there. Hardee starts here, Breckinridge is over here. So now you've got a crossfire situation that's going to take place amongst the Union line there. Smith's brigade will be pushed back by this Confederate counterattack that we talked about taking that. But everyone, it is in that counterattack that crossfire is created by the Confederates. And pandemonium again takes place. Crittenden will then reorganize his force at about noon. That's when Mendenhall's battery will shift over to the west into the thicket to support Crittenden's division. Mendenhall's batteries H and M of the 4th U.S. Light Artillery had 2 3-inch Rodman rifles, 2 12-pound howitzers. At this time, Smith's brigade will push again along the eastern Corinth Road against Marshal Smith, Stewart, and Colonel Martin's brigade. And Boyle's men then will charge or advance across that open Duncan field and start heading this direction again. Now Crittenden's entire division start wheeling to the left, meaning they'll start curling in this way. Now they've got to be careful because they don't want anyone to get around to their left flank. But they start to wheel around and head towards Barnes Field, which is this one back over here. They're coming, wheeling in this direction because they're trying to push the basically the way they came in, which is that direction. So they're completing, I guess you could say, their objective. And this is between, I would say somewhere between 1 o'clock or 12 to 1 or so during all of this counterattack by Crittenden's division as they're swinging around. You've got the rest of Buell's men over there as well doing the same thing. To the point where they place their artillery right here on this crest. In someone's account, they talk about going up over a hill. This is the only hill I can find. So they went up over this hill here. And what will eventually happen is the Crittenden's division will go to the south end of Barnes Field there. And if you look at the map, you see them at 2 p.m. Heading across the field. Now it's at 2 o'clock that General Beauregard orders are sent out from him to fall back towards Corinth. So 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock on April the 7th, Beauregard calls for a withdrawal to Corinth. They move a little bit further south, as you can see on the map there, Crittenden's division does, just south of Spain's Field, and that's where they're going to spend Monday night. Now, let me see what time it is. Really? Normally it's almost close to the next hour by now. Wow, I talked really fast and we moved fast. Whoever was with me in the front was booking it. So, but to kind of close in more about them, I do have pictures of these commanders, and I usually show pictures of all these fellas. But this is, if you haven't ever seen a picture of them, this is Thomas Leonidas Crittenden, the commander of this division here that we've been talking about this whole time. And this is Smith. These are smaller pictures, but this is William right here, the guy who's been commanding in the area that we've walked, if you will, and then Boyle right here. And this is Boyle right here. So these commanders are. I mean, if I'm going to grade them on what they did here with these guys, I think they get an A. But that's just me, my opinion, and I will say that. But as far as kind of how they have viewed and approached this, what their thoughts about it were. One of the Confederate guys that was with Breckinridge Division, he was with the 3rd Kentucky of Trabuse Brigade, Conrad Chapman. He talks about as a counterattack through here, just to kind of give more of an idea and more stories. As a counterattack through there, he just talks about a twig grabbing his hat, and he said there was no time. He said, but it's not time to look back. On we moved and kept moving our line as best we could. As far as, I've got a quote from one of the 11th Kentucky, and you notice I said 3rd Kentucky with Breckinridge Division Confederate. On the other side, we're talking about Smith's brigade. We've got Mr. E.R. Weir, Jr. of the 11th Kentucky U.S. with Smith's brigade. He's talking about them coming up to support Mendenhall's. He said we were drawn up in its rear and we were ordered to lie down to protect ourselves from the bombs. So we talked about when Mendenhall's comes up, they're going to be trading blows with the Confederate artillery here, and they're having to hit the ground. Now I won't keep reading these. I could. But I do want to read this one right here. It's a guy, Daniel Ramsdell, the 14th Wisconsin, with Smith's brigade here. He said there was a crash of rattle of musketry, the yip yip of passing bullets, the thunder of cannon, the commands of officers are intermixed with the cheering of men. A man dropped here, another there. Down falls a tent mate and friend. Is he dead or wounded? No time to stop and see, no halting now, no time to show any feeling for comrade or friend. But forward we go, the timber and underbrush so thick we can see scarcely through 10 feet in front of us. That was that account I was looking for earlier. Just to kind of wrap all this up, I'm not going to try to keep us out here just to burn time so it looks like we took that long. Not like that. Anyway, so, but I always talk about the numbers and what it means, the 23,746, and I'm not going to harp on that too much because I'll be doing that over at the church at 4:30. That's where the sermon really happens. No, I'm kidding, kind of. But it's just a 30-minute chat talking about the rest of the story, the aftermath of Shiloh, so I won't do that too much right here. But I do think it's important to understand that 23,746, that each one, you know, I hear people say 23,000 plus all the time. I did it my first summer working here. I couldn't remember 746 off the top of my head. I had so much information going through and it just didn't click. And I felt so horrible because that 746, that 6, not 5, means something to that whole family that was that 6, not the 5 there. So definitely that 746 really meant something. And I made it a promise to myself to never, ever, ever forget that number, 23,746, the killed, wounded, and missing here at the Battle of Shiloh. I'm not expecting you to remember that. 23,000 plus is a big deal, but that 746 absolutely matters. And one of those, the 6, if you will, the 6th man, we'll call him the 23,736 guy, just right over here, because this is a slap in the face and a kick in the gut to our nation. But it hit the White House directly, because a guy named Samuel Todd, just right over here with the Louisiana Crescent Regiment, his sister, the First Lady, his half-sister, Mary Todd Lincoln, he dies just right over here, gut shot, with his guts in his hands, just right over there trying to protect that artillery battery, as we talked earlier. So it hits the White House. Of course it does, because the president, but it hits her deeply because she just lost her half-brother here at the Battle of Shiloh. So the White House feels this on an even more personal level than you would think they would. Guys, I appreciate you guys coming all the way out down south here with me, all the way to the Hamburg-Purdy Road.
What are you patterning your rebel yell after? Since
Actually, after Colonel Shaver,
after who?
the Colonel Shaver that was here, and his buddies. They do the rebel yell on an actual video recording, and it is spine chilling. Yeah, and they talk about barking and howling and whooping and yipping, so I add all of that good stuff in there.
I didn't know that was anybody ever really passed that down.
Yeah, Colonel Shaver, a veteran of this battle, who had a lot to do with exactly where the Arkansas Monument is, which we passed a while ago. He's one of those guys. It's just amazing. He lived a pretty long life, and I know in the 1900s.
It was actually filmed.
It was.
Yeah.
You can look it up.
6,000 guys doing it at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, but people have gone back and multiplied it and changed the pitches and all that kind of stuff to make it huge, and it's spine chilling. Pandemonium.